Saturday night, there is a huge night of boxing. A South London derby. An all-British light heavyweight title fight. The British and Commonwealth title are on the line. This is Dan Azeez versus Buatsi. Two undefeated fighters. So, who are the competitors? Buatsi has a slightly better amateur pedigree than Azeez. Is the slight favourite going into the fight. Hasn't performed his best the last two fights, but I'm sure he'll be up for this fight because there's so much on the line. Dan Azeez doesn't have quite as good of an amateur pedigree as Buatsi, but he gets a lot of credit for having taken things, the hard route in the professional reign. So obviously, he's done the English and he's done the British, and he's done European, Commonwealth, so he's really done the hard route in terms of boxing, so he gets a lot of respect for that. Obviously, there is a lot on stake for both of the fighters. One of them's going to lose their O. They don't want to lose their pride being, beaten in their hometown, and the winner is likely to get a world title shot against the winner of Buatsi versus Bivol. The fight was supposed to take place last year, but Azeez had to pull out due to a back injury. For me, this is a worry, as obviously Liam Smith had a back injury with his going into his rematch with Chris Eubank Jr., and he didn't look himself at all in the ring. Could this be a bad omen for this fight? But obviously, we don't know how bad the injuries were. It's hard to tell how different the injuries were. Both competitors seem pretty confident. I listened to Steve Bunce's podcast with both of them. They both sound pretty confident on the interviews, as he didn't seem to be worried about his back at all. So, it's a good sign we're in for a competitive fight. Azeez might have a slight mental edge going into this fight. He likes being the underdog, and obviously he can play that well, with Buatsi being the favourite. And Azeez is suggesting that Buatsi maybe doesn't like being the favourite quite as much, putting unwanted pressure on Buatsi, who also likes to think of himself as an underdog. Azeez is a huge fan of Marvin Hagler. He loves to imitate his style when he fights. Azeez's nickname is Super, and I believe it's because he throws like an uppercut that looks like something out of Super Mario Bros. Azeez has been more active. He's fought 3 times in 2022 and twice in 2023. Compared to Buatsi, he was fought once in each. Azeez had TKO in 2023, whereas Buatsi hasn't had one since 2021, having fought less. So is Azeez going to feel more confident going into the fight? However, Buatsi has probably had harder competition. He has a good win over Craig Richards, who went toe-to-toe with Bivol in a very close match. Although it's hard to know with Bivol when matches are close if he just isn't putting his foot on the gas, because he tends not to put himself into any unneeded trouble. So it's hard to know, if Bivol was at his full force. Buatsi's last opponent was undefeated, whereas Azeez had lost 11 times. So could this be a battle of more activity versus higher competition? Which one will come out on top? My prediction, I'm very torn. I like that Azeez has had more activity coming into the fight. And I think mentally he's perhaps got the edge, obviously playing as the underdog and Buatsi having the pressure. But Buatsi's amateur pedigree and win over Craig Richards can't be ignored. So I was struggling to decide who to predict to win, and then I went and watched the live gloves are off. I just watched the highlights. And just from eye contact and body language, it looks like Buatsi wants it slightly more. He had this kind of dangerous look in his eye. So I think I'm going to have to predict Buatsi on points. But it's a very good fight, and it seems a shame that it's not being promoted quite as much as it could be. It isn't like ticket sales are all that high. Well, that was a rumour. That was why it was cancelled the first time, because they couldn't get the ticket sales. And obviously there's not a lot of trash talking because the fighters respect each other. So yeah, perhaps it's a little bit of a shame the fight isn't as popular as it could be, but I'm sure for us, kind of boxing fans, it'll be a good exciting fight, and I'm looking forward to it. Let me know your predictions in the comments. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.